Exile was the price of dissent in ancient Sparta. Speak against the line, and you were cast into the shadows. But exile never stopped warriors. It sharpened them. Graham Hancock has walked that same path, not with shield and spear, but with ancient maps, forbidden texts, and a defiance that echoes through the academic silence trying to smother him. Born in 1950 in Edinburgh, raised in India, and educated at Durham, Hancock began his career as a mainstream journalist. He wrote for The Economist and The Sunday Times, earning respect for his investigative eye. But the mainstream path bored him. It was too narrow, too safe. He wanted to look further, into the ruins that didn't make sense, the anomalies buried in footnotes, the civilizations that shouldn't exist. So he did the unthinkable. He questioned history. Not the kind printed in textbooks, but the one written in stone, on mountaintops, in megaliths, underwater, and deep beneath the sand. He started asking whether the so-called primitive cultures were truly primitive, or if they were descendants of something older, deeper, and lost. Whether a catastrophe wiped out a sophisticated global civilization thousands of years before Sumer, before Egypt, before the so-called cradle. He said things that made archaeologists furious, that maybe history didn't start in Mesopotamia, that Atlantis wasn't myth but memory, that the flood stories found in every ancient tradition weren't just allegories, they were eyewitness accounts of global trauma. And he didn't just make claims, he went out and searched. Dived into the waters off Yonaguni, climbed the pyramids of Giza, crawled through jungle temples, and stood at the gates of forgotten cities. Then came Fingerprints of the Gods in 1995, a global bestseller, a declaration of war. The academic class tried to bury him, called him a crank, a pseudoscientist, a charlatan. But Hancock wasn't selling snake oil. He was selling curiosity, and he was asking better questions than they were answering. Because right after his book, archaeologists discovered Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, an astonishing site dated to around 9600 BCE, aligning uncannily with the timeline Hancock had already proposed. It was built by people who weren't supposed to exist, a civilization that shouldn't have had the tools or the coordination to build sacred architecture. And yet, there it stood, older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids, covered deliberately in soil as if someone wanted it hidden. Graham Hancock had been laughed at for decades. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. Still, the attacks didn't. Academics didn't argue with the data. They went after the man. They said he wasn't one of them, that he didn't have a degree in archaeology. As if truth required permission, as if only those wearing the right robes could speak. But Hancock didn't want their robes. He didn't want their chairs or their credentials. He wanted the truth, and he was willing to go to war for it. He talked of Earth crust displacement, of comet strikes in the Younger Dryas, of ancient global seafaring cultures, of megaliths built with geometry no jungle tribe could have produced. He pointed out that many ruins seemed intentionally misdated, ignored, or suppressed. That inconvenient evidence was buried, sometimes literally. He made documentaries, spoke on Rogan, filled theaters, not with cultists, but with people hungry to know what else might be buried beneath the illusion of certainty. He never claimed to be infallible. In fact, he told his audiences to think for themselves. That's what threatened the gatekeepers most. Not the ideas, but the independence of thought. Through all this, Hancock faced relentless resistance, mainstream media blackouts, public ridicule. Yet he never yielded. He doubled down. Wrote Magicians of the Gods, America Before, Visionary, Supernatural. Books that blend historical data, myth, and mysticism without apology. His writing is dense with evidence, filled with questions modern historians refuse to ask. Like, why do ancient sites align with star systems? Why were global flood myths recorded in cultures that never had contact? Why do ruins exist beneath glaciers and oceans, as if time itself had been misfiled? And why does academia react with hostility instead of curiosity? The Spartan path isn't defined by consensus. It's defined by the willingness to walk alone. Hancock's rejection by elite institutions didn't break him. It liberated him. He built his own audience, wrote his own narrative, uncovered mysteries most historians refuse to touch. And beneath the fringe label slapped on him, a deeper truth exists, that he has consistently been early, not wrong, that many of his claims, once ridiculed, are being reconsidered, quietly, behind closed doors, because reality doesn't care who is right. It just waits for the brave to notice it. Hancock also dared to speak of altered states, of consciousness as a tool, not a threat. He explored the role of psychedelics in ancient civilizations, suggesting that spiritual experience and intellectual insight were once intertwined, that human potential was once larger, before the Great Forgetting. A claim that aligns more with ancient initiation rites than modern materialism. He's been censored, shunned, and yet his following grows. Because people sense that the official story is incomplete, that a civilization that could move 1,000-ton stones without machines wasn't primitive, that a world culture might have been wiped out and forgotten. That truth, like a buried temple, must be uncovered layer by layer through mud, resistance, and pain. There is no diploma for courage. There is no certification for curiosity. There is only the fire in a man's gut to seek truth no matter the cost. That's why Graham Hancock qualifies. Not because he was right about everything, but because he kept going when the world tried to silence him. Because he dared to remember a history others wanted forgotten. He walks the lonely road, like Leonidas at Thermopylae, like Socrates in the Agora, not seeking applause, only awakening. Not asking for permission, only asking better questions. In the ruins of fallen empires and sunken cities, he finds fragments of a world long buried, and he holds them up to the light. That is the Spartan Mindset. Order the Spartan Mindset today and embark on your journey toward becoming the leader your world needs. Let your struggles forge you into a warrior of character and resolve. The Spartan Mindset provides a comprehensive and actionable guide to personal development and resilience. Available now for just $19.99. Purchase your copy from the links in the description box below and on this channel's homepage, because your future begins with the right mindset. The Spartan Mindset.